a little closer look. Well, no, let's go in between real fast because I was personally entertained by the Werdum fight. Now, first off, I like angry Werdum way more than I like this nice, happy Joker face Werdum. I couldn't stand the Joker face. I didn't get the Joker face. Some fans got behind it. They were holding it. I thought it was dorky and weird and took away from who was the baddest dude on the planet at the superior weight class in the sport, the heavyweight, right? So he comes, I liked angry Werdum. I liked his attitude leading into this. And if you want to celebrate Werdum, you have to understand how good Travis Browne is. Travis Browne is amongst the best athletes that the heavyweights have. There is not very many heavyweights that could transition and go into another sport. Travis Browne could. In fact, he came from a successful basketball career over to MMA. You look at Cain Velasquez, straight up killer. That dude's not putting on a jersey for the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey. He's not. This is the sport that he needs to be doing. So when you consider how good Travis Browne is, that's when you can really appreciate Werdum. Now, I had a different perspective than the live audience. The live audience at the end of that fight was booing. I was at home, and I'm a pretty critical guy. I'm not afraid to complain about a fighter because, geez, fast forward, I'm bored. I was not bored in that contest. I loved that fight. And you want to know what else? And apparently I was on my own with this one because I watched it with a room full of people. I thought there was an argument for Travis Browne. I thought Werdum won the fight, but I wasn't positive that there was. I wasn't positive you couldn't give 2 rounds to Browne.
Okay, it wasn't a bad fight. It was a competitive fight. It was a good fight. You're missing the point, dude. They're in Cleveland. Cleveland's maniacs. They're crazy.
Point being,
they would have booed Jesus 10 minutes.
I got
they
you.
would have
All
booed
they want to see
Jesus
is
10
Stipe.
minutes before Stipe.
Okay. All right, so the crowd boos. I'm watching that. Now, again, go back to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, one of the things I love about him, he's the best commentator the sport has, but one of the reasons is if he doesn't see it, he won't say it. He calls it straight, and that was not right when Browne called timeout. In MMA, you can't call timeout. Whether your finger's hurt or it's an accident or it's this, fill in the blanks, you can't call timeout. Timeout, I'm hurt, is what they're trying to do out there. You're trying to submit and create damage in a contest. It doesn't matter if it's a finger on accident or if it's an arm on purpose. Mark Ratner popped on the mic. Joe Rogan had called it for us. Mark Ratner clarified it by saying, yeah, you cannot do that. So there was a little turmoil there, but I felt once that cooled down, like possibly there was an adrenaline dump by Werdum. I felt like Travis Browne started to gain a little bit and the Werdum slowed down just a little bit. You had to look close to see it because, God, Werdum is just so good. He's so good. But angry Werdum is 5 times the entertainer as Joker face funny boy Werdum. I mean, Werdum's so pissed off, he throws the FU sign to the crowd afterwards. I don't know if you saw that. He makes the cry face to the crowd, turns all 8 sides of the octagon so everybody in the building knows how he feels, and then throws a gut kick on Coach Edmond. There was nothing about that is okay and acceptable, but if you're trying to tell me it wasn't entertaining, you're lying. It was entertaining.
Let me tell you, so I had to go back and watch that. And I've been on the Edmond's the worst guy in the world bandwagon, blah, 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 blah. When I saw it, I was like, that a boy, Edmond. You know, when he front kicked him, Edmond held his ground. He was ready to go. He did
take that kick well, didn't he?
He was ready to go. He didn't take a step back, and I was like, all right, I'm an Edmond guy now. Werdum was so funny. I don't know if you've seen the press conference afterwards. He says, you know, that he's had trauma, that Stipe gave him trauma, you know, and he's got the broken English and he's got to get it all that makes sense. But he says, you know, when you have trauma, you have to steer right back into it, and that's what he's trying to do. He had trauma with Stipe, and he's trying to get that fight so he can steer right back into it. He said when he was in L.A. after the fight, he seen a fire truck behind him. And he didn't know if it was the Stipe.
Okay. All right. There's something there.
Yeah.
I will admit that Edmond did take that kick well. Now, in fairness, if we're being fair, Edmond was wrong on that one because not only was he put in the mouth to Werdum, but the problem was he did take steps towards Werdum. And that's a little bit different. You know, first off, coach and athlete is separate. You know, Verdum's got no business talking about doing anything to a coach, but a coach also can't do that to an athlete. But Edmond did take a couple of steps towards him.
He was out of range.
Well, Verdum's argument after the fact, he said, I was just trying to keep he played it like
Sure.
Mr. Innocent. I don't know if you read the interview. He goes, I was just trying to keep the distance.
Yeah.
Well, no, you kicked him in the gut is what you did. I was just trying to keep the distance. He played it like that, and it worked because the commission just goes, look, I don't know. He took some steps. He got kicked. Let's call it a day.
Again, they're in Cleveland. They're like, yeah, whatever.
The commission did it right.
Yeah.
I mean, don't make a huge thing out of this. Look, it could have gone 5 different ways, but the bottom line is it didn't. But it was a high point of the night. It got real interesting.
Dude, that crowd was so good. I don't know if you watched the prelims. But Jessica I, who's a Cleveland girl, was in a barn burner.
I love Jessica's fights.
And I thought she won the fight. It was close. It could have went either way. And that crowd, that's as loud as of a crowd I've ever heard on a pay-per-view on a prelim since Randy fought the Giant over there in Columbus. They got to go back to Cleveland.
Sure.
I like Verdum's idea. Let's do it back in Cleveland, me and Stipe.
Yeah, well, and Verdum's going to be making a good case for himself. You know, you can't just act like Cain Velasquez doesn't exist. He's been on a roll lately too, but yeah, what do we know about this sport, man? It's whoever did it last. Whoever did it last always gets the edge. Verdum did it last. He looked great doing it. You know, I'll tell you this too, and you probably know, but the viewers may not have caught this. So when you get knocked out, there is a timidness that comes, and that's just a historical fact. You can look back over boxing. They say when a guy gets knocked out, he's never the same again. Well, what they're talking about is a guy starts to question himself. He starts to refuse to take risks. He's so worried. He's questioning, geez, can I take a punch? Am I making myself susceptible? When Werdum got knocked out, he was going after Stipe. He got a little frustrated in that fight. It was on his home turf. He let his guard down, and he rushed him. Those are the risks that Werdum takes in fights. Werdum was so conscious of this. He was so conscious of the guys that have been in his shoes, that have been knocked out, that came out there timid, that he went out of his way to make sure to throw caution to the wind and go out and let it hang. That's what that opening, crazy, flying sidekick to start the fight was. Some guys gave him a hard time because he was doing those rolling kicks and doing some crazy stuff. What they were missing was that was psychologically for him. He wanted to make sure he did not change what had got him so far, which was taking risks, being unpredictable, being diverse. So he went out of his way and went over the top with insanity. And I thought that was a really good sign. You know, if you're a Werdum fan and you watch him doing that, you're coming away going, oh, okay, our boy put that one behind him. He's back, and that's a rare, rare thing. I mean, that was an incredible performance Werdum had. And when you realize how good Travis Browne is, when you accept how good Travis Browne is, that's when you can really start to appreciate Werdum got back on his feet, walked into the guy who took his belt's hometown, and let it all hang out.
So Werdum said he saw Browne's finger come out of his bone, come out of his finger. So that means that cat fought 12 and 2, 14 minutes with a compound fracture in his hand. That's a tough old boy right there.
And won some minutes.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I think he won the second round.
Yeah, when it was over, I wasn't I knew Werdum should have won.
Yeah.
Hey, the judges should give it this way, but it was questionable enough rounds 2 and rounds 3, and Browne had his moments that I thought, well, I'm not positive who they're going to give this to.
Well, me and Ladd had a little hiccup at Miss H's house, so I missed the first 2 minutes of the first round, which I missed where he dominated the round. I missed the whole first round. So the second round, I thought that Travis won, and it could have went either way in the third. So it was close. It wasn't, I mean, again, man, that I was talking to Kat yesterday. We wait longer and longer as fans for the oh shit fights. We just happen to see Diaz and McGregor a couple weeks ago. That round that Stipe and Overeem had, one of the best heavyweight championship rounds I've ever seen.